Emily Parker always believed her marriage was built on love, trust, and unspoken understanding. She and her husband, Mark, had been married for 8 years, long enough to share a rhythm in life, yet sometimes too long to remember the spark that started it all. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Colorado, where every evening felt predictable. Dinner at 7, TV at 8, and bed by 10. But one Thursday night, something changed. It was an ordinary evening, or so Emily thought. She had just finished clearing the table after dinner, the faint scent of pasta sauce still hanging in the air. Mark was sitting in the living room, scrolling through his phone, his face calm but oddly serious. When she walked in, drying her hands on a towel, she noticed his distant expression. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. He looked up and smiled faintly. "Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about something." Her stomach tightened. Those words, "wanted to talk," could mean anything. She sat beside him. "What's going on?" Mark took a deep breath, setting his phone aside. "I've been thinking a lot lately. About us. About how we've been living. And I realized I haven't really been fair to you." Emily blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" "You've been great, Mark." He shook his head. "No, not really. I've been distant. Work, stress, everything, I let it all take priority over us. And I know it's made you feel like I don't care." His voice cracked slightly, and Emily felt her chest tighten. She hadn't expected that. The truth was, she had felt the distance, quiet dinners, less laughter, fewer shared moments. But she had told herself it was just part of marriage. That people settled into routines. Mark continued, "I don't want us to just exist together. I want us to live again, to feel like we used to." Emily reached for his hand. "So, what are you saying?" He looked into her eyes, steady and sincere. "I want us to start over. Not like strangers, but like people rediscovering each other. I want us to go on dates again. To talk about our dreams, not just bills and errands. And I have one request." Emily's heart skipped. "What's that?" Mark smiled softly. "No phones after dinner. Just us. Talking, laughing, or even sitting in silence, as long as it's together." It wasn't what she expected. It wasn't dramatic or complicated. But somehow, it felt profound. That night, they sat without their phones for the first time in years. It was awkward at first, like trying to remember how to breathe underwater. But then Mark told her about a funny thing that happened at work, and she laughed. A real, full laugh that echoed through the quiet house. For the first time in a long while, she saw him, the man she married. Over the next few weeks, something beautiful began to shift. They started having small dinners outside on the patio. They took weekend walks. They even found themselves cooking together, something they hadn't done since their first year of marriage. One Saturday morning, Mark surprised her with a box of old photos. "Remember these?" he said, smiling. There they were, their wedding, their first trip, the tiny apartment they started in. They laughed and reminisced, their hands brushing over each photo. Emily realized that love wasn't something that faded, it just needed attention, like a garden waiting to be tended again. One night, as they watched a storm roll in, Emily turned to him. "You know," she said softly, "your request that night really changed everything." Mark chuckled. "Guess it did. I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose what made us, us." She leaned on his shoulder. "We didn't. We just needed to find it again." As lightning flickered outside and rain tapped against the window, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, peace. Not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that grows from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be. Months later, Emily started a small journal, jotting down the moments that made her smile. Their morning walks, the night they danced in the kitchen, the letter Mark wrote her for their anniversary, a handwritten note that said, "Thank you for not giving up on us." They weren't perfect. They still argued, got tired, and faced the chaos of life. But now, there was understanding, a quiet commitment that love wasn't about grand gestures, but small, consistent acts of care. And every night after dinner, they still turned off their phones, brewed tea, and talked, sometimes about dreams, sometimes about nothing at all. Emily would smile to herself and think back to that unexpected request, simple, heartfelt, and life-changing. It wasn't the night that changed their marriage. It was the choice to listen, to try, and to love, all over again.